So I recently released my guide to Serum 2, in which I said this about the specific parameter. Now, unfortunately, we already run into the first option that I couldn't find the description for in the manual, and this is one that's, even through testing, I didn't quite know what it was doing. So if you know what wrap phase does, please explain it to me in the comments down below. And of course, because I said that, somebody came out and helped me understand what this parameter does, and oh boy, does it do some cool sound design stuff. I mean, I think you can find a use for that kind of craziness in your own sound design. So the parameter in question was here in regards to the phase, which is this warp phase parameter here. Now, as I said, a viewer of mine had to help me understand what this parameter actually does, and Formulus Psy on YouTube explained it there in the comments, and later on also in the Discord. Here he actually posted a video of his own example, but I'm actually going to explain it myself. If you want to find his explanation, which is also really good, you can find it in the Technical Talks channel. But I want to set up my own system to show you exactly what it does. Now, this warp phase option, we can find it over here in the actual phase. We right click and then we can set it to warp phase or not. And if you're just playing with it, it doesn't really seem to do anything. Even if we set like randomness down or something. Like that is just reproducing the same kind of effect, like moving it around like slightly changes the pitch and whatnot. But there's really no difference between the texture that we get when we have warp phase on and when we have warp phase off. But let's say that we want to use that pitch changing effect of moving the phase around, which essentially is what the phase distortion is doing over here. But let's say that we want to do that manually with an LFO, for example. So let's assign an LFO here. Let's set the modulation all the way up. And let's hear what this sounds like. As you can see, we're running into a little bit of a problem, which is that with the modulation all the way up, it just stops here and it doesn't really continue, which it can do because the phase is based on a circle, in the sense that we start at the start of the waveform at 0 degrees, and then we go all around the circle, all 360 degrees until we get to the end. So then the end is just going to be the same as the start. So ideally, we would loop around there. And this is exactly what warp phase allows you to do. So let's set up that exact same modulation again at 180 degrees. We can now see that we don't get that like triple pitch effect. We just get one pitch for the rise and one pitch for it going down, which is exactly what we expect because we're first moving the phase forward at a constant speed and then backwards at a constant speed, which should result in a constant pitch change. Now, the next thing that I realized, and the thing that makes this patch possible, this crazy one that we saw in the intro, is that that means that we can loop around maybe multiple times, right? If we can loop around once and have the modulation go around once from here to here, what happens if we then modulate it up here and around again? Can we do that? And the answer is yes, you can. So what I've done in this case, if we go into the matrix, we can see that I have set 3 modulations of the exact same parameter, of the exact same target, and with the exact same LFO. And funnily enough, for the sound, this actually matters. You can hear that we get these texture changes in there if we bypass them or not, meaning that it just keeps looping around more and more and adding more modulation to it. Now, in the case of this patch, you can see that there's a little bit more going on. There's another thing that I haven't shown in my ultimate guide, and that is that you can click on these pitch parameters here. Again, right click and set the mode in which they're displayed. So we have a harmonic mode, and then we also have a ratio mode. And we're using the ratio mode to get a 7:1 ratio between oscillator B and oscillator A. And then I'm just using an extra bit of phase distortion to get that extra second tonality out of it. And finally, to generate the stereo, we're using 16 voices on oscillator A. And I'm actually using 2 voices on oscillator B, because that allows you to phase distort the left and the right channel differently, I believe. I don't know exactly how it works, but I believe that it can take up to 2 voices when you're using like a modulation like this, and actually it changes the sound if you do that. Maybe this LFO gets in the way a little bit if we're hearing that, so let's temporarily disable these modulations. It doesn't felt like it changed much, so maybe this does nothing. Of course, we're not actually outputting this level, we're just using this wavetable for the modulation here. And really, when it comes to this crazy patch, if I re-enable all of these modulations again, we can hear that this is really all there is to it. And it's all made possible by this phase warp here. You can definitely hear that with the phase warp turned off, again, we get that free stack and pitch, because in this case, again, the LFO is kind of modulating up and down. And when it's going one way, it just bumps into the end of the modulation and it cannot go any further. Now that's going to be everything that I wanted to show in this video. I really just wanted to make this to say thanks to Formula Psi for actually showing me this and allowing me to discover this really cool patch that couldn't have been done without it. Now I hope that you also enjoyed the video and that you find this kind of stuff cool and interesting. If you do, make sure that you're subscribed, because there's going to be a lot more Serum 2 content going to come. As you may have seen with the amount of time that it took to make the ultimate guide, I really didn't have time to keep up with March Mixing Madness, which is the series that I had started for March, where I wanted to make a video every single day. Of course, I could keep up for a while, but once Serum came out and I really wanted to focus on that video, I really just didn't have time for it. And it would have been too much of a distraction of all of the cool stuff that I'm now finding out in this new synth. So I'm going to continue focusing more on Serum 2. I think that is also what you guys are going to want more. But I'm sure I'm going to have the occasional video or two also with the mixing related stuff, because of course I'm still mixing an album and I'm going to find interesting things in that as well. So that's going to be the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more of the kind of stuff that I post here, make sure that you check out one of the 2 videos that are now on the screen. You can also just subscribe and turn on the bell notifications and that kind of stuff, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. Thank you. Bye bye.